Hello everyone, and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1227, 1227, August the 21st, 2020, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, let's get back to the follow-up issues regarding the Kevin Kleinsmith hearing. I was able to listen to the entire hearing, and I've learned since the video yesterday that entire court proceeding was done by teleconference. No one was in a courtroom. Everyone was at some place on a teleconference call. So, and the way that the reporters were able to get all this information is they released as soon as, I don't know if they were able to tap into it while it was happening, but probably not. Probably it was released shortly after the hearing, and that's how Catherine Herridge and Chuck Ross and others got the word for word play-by-play about what went on in the hearing, is because the audio was released of the hearing, which was conducted again by telephone or teleconferencing. Not video, just telephone. So I listened to it as well. 22 minutes in length. 22 minutes is how long that court hearing was. I've also been able to find a document that was dug up by Margot Cleveland, and it goes along with the charging document, and it goes into further detail about the agreements that they have with Kevin Kleinsmith. So let's go ahead and go through just a few facts that we can add to yesterday's video about the specific details of the Kevin Kleinsmith hearing. Again, it was conducted by teleconference, not in person. It lasted 22 minutes. The lead attorney for the Durham investigation, though actually it was the lead attorney and the assistant attorney. The lead attorney was, of course, Anthony Scarpelli from, he's the U.S. attorney that specializes in RICO cases. He's out of D.C., as well as Miraj Patel, and Patel is a assistant U.S. attorney. So it was Scarpelli along with Patel as the two U.S. attorneys representing Durham, as well as special investigator on the case, retired FBI agent Timothy Furman. So Scarpelli, Patel, and Furman were the three representing the Durham investigation. The two U.S. attorneys and the FBI, former FBI investigator. Furman is no longer with the FBI. He's now works as a private investigator and does a lot of work for the Department of Justice. So I think one of the most important things that came out in that entire 22 minutes was just a brief sentence or two that Scarpelli said toward the very end of the hearings. When they got toward the end of the hearings at about the 18-19 minute mark, if you're watching the audio, or listening to the audio rather, they start talking about the release conditions. Judge Boasberg asked Scarpelli if the government has any specific requests for release conditions. And what he's talking about is, okay, so what is your desire that we do with Mr. Kleinsmith between now and when he is sentenced on December 10th? Do you have any travel restrictions? Is there any special requests by the government? And Scarpelli basically said, regarding the release conditions, he said the following, quote, "In light of the fact the defendant has known about this matter for quite some time and hasn't fled, blah, 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 blah," and he goes into talking about how, okay, well, we're not going to make him sit in jail between now and December. He's okay. He hasn't tried to flee at this point, but we do want him to surrender his passport, and he cannot go anywhere outside of like 4 states that Scarpelli names, like Pennsylvania, Virginia, Michigan, and one other state. But the key phrase here, the key words in this phrase by Scarpelli is, in light of the fact the defendant has known about this matter for quite some time and hasn't fled. What does that mean? He's saying The matter that he's referring to is the fact that he's going to be criminally prosecuted. He's known that he was going to be criminally prosecuted for quite some time and has not fled. That tells me that they have had a dialogue with Kleinsmith and or his attorney. I'm sure his attorney would always be with him. And of course we know it was Kleinsmith's attorney that approached the government, Durham. And you don't go to the government and say, yeah, I'm the attorney for my client here who you're obviously targeting and getting ready to prosecute. I just want to let you know that we want to cooperate. We want to, work out a deal. We want a plea deal. Well, you don't go to the prosecuting attorney who's about to lay charges on you and tell him that you want a plea deal, but that you're not willing to give up something in return. Clearly, Kleinsmith's attorney, when he approached Durham with a proffer, and that is, my client would like to seek a plea deal. And of course we know when your attorney goes to the prosecutor and says my client wants a plea deal, what that means is he wants a deal. And a deal, both people give up something. Both people get something, both people give up something. Durham gives Kleinsmith a lighter sentence, and he gets something from Kleinsmith. What do you think Durham would want from Kleinsmith? For a plea deal, to plea to a lesser charge, and probably avoid jail time. Usually it's information. Now, Margot Cleveland was able to discover some documents that go further into the explanation of the deal. And here is a paragraph I will read for you from that document. As an express condition of this agreement, the defendant agrees to be personally debriefed by the FBI regarding the FBI's review of FISA matters and any information he possesses, direct or indirect, that should be brought to the attention of the FISA court. Let me read that again. As an express condition of this agreement, the defendant agrees to be personally debriefed by the FBI regarding the FBI's review of FISA matters and any information he possesses, direct or indirect, that should be brought to the attention of the FISA court. So Kleinsmith, his position there was primarily working on the FISAs. Now he also was on Crossfire Hurricane, the Clinton investigation, but he primarily, in his job, his role, what he did was primarily deal with things having to do with FISA. Now, of course, FISA just doesn't deal with electronic surveillance. It also deals with approving of the FBI to be able to come into your home and get evidence, to put spies around you or run spies at you. The surveillance is wide-ranging. It just doesn't mean the electronic surveillance. It also would include dropping $10,000 on somebody and setting them up. So they don't specifically say Crossfire Hurricane, but the work that Kleinsmith was doing was FISA's in cooperation with the Crossfire Hurricane team. He was working with the team. He was on the team, essentially. But his primary role was he dealt with the FISA's and surveillance authority and knowing about things surveillance related. And therefore, he would have all this types of information. So, again, as an express condition of this agreement, the defendant, Kevin Kleinsmith, agrees to be personally debriefed by the FBI regarding the FBI's review of FISA matters and any information he possesses, direct or indirect, that should be brought to the attention of the FISA court. Then it goes on basically to say what we talked about yesterday or day before, I can't remember which day it was, where it talks about the fact that they will not prosecute. They're promising not to lay additional charges on Kleinsmith for any new charges whether that's information they currently have or information they may receive in the future, which could come from Kleinsmith himself or from some other source. And it also says that if you read into this paragraph farther down, it also goes specifically and says that while they agree that they're not going to add or lay additional charges on Kleinsmith for any information they currently have or information they may acquire, whether it comes from Kleinsmith or someone else, he's completely clear, but the information that he gives them does not clear other people. The information he provides can be used to lay charges on other people. That's basically a cooperation agreement. So I've been seeing a lot of people been saying, well, it looks like he's going to get a hand slap. Yeah, it is a hand slap, but he didn't get a hand slap for nothing. Durham is not that stupid, or at least let's hope he's not. If you read this several paragraphs of this charging document, the paragraph I just read you, and then it goes on to some legal gibberish, then it gets down toward the bottom of that, and that's where it explains that they've agreed not to lay additional charges on him for information they currently have or may acquire from him or from others, but it does not mean that information that they may get from him once he's questioned by the FBI about these FISA matters, that information that they acquire can be used to lay charges on other people. So there you have it. There is your plea deal right there. He got a hand slap. He may not serve a single day of jail time. Very likely that he'll get like home incarceration for 30 days, or he may get a week in jail or 10 days tops probably. The fine he's facing could be up to $10,000, but will probably be nothing but court costs. He's getting off pretty light. And Durham just didn't let this guy walk for nothing. Remember, it was Kleinsmith's attorney that approached Durham. And as we can see here, from what's in this statement, which is, I guess, part of the charging statement that wasn't part of the original charging statement, but this must be additional information. Or maybe this is from those 10 pages that we, haven't seen, that haven't really been released to the public. Maybe Margot Cleveland got her hands on it some way. She's a lawyer. She might know how to do that. But this is something that no one else seems to have that Margot Cleveland does have. And she shows you. She puts the documents on Twitter. She put it on her Twitter feed. You can read it. What I just read to you, I got off of her Twitter feed. Okay, so she's got the document. And it clearly says, as I just read to you, as an express condition of this agreement, the defendant agrees to be personally debriefed by the FBI regarding the FBI's review of FISA matters and any information he possesses, direct or indirect, that should be brought to the attention of the FISA court. Then you have about 2 paragraphs of gibberish. Then at the bottom of that document, which is on her Twitter, you will see that it says, basically in a nutshell, I'm sparing you the legal mumbo jumbo, it basically says that in this agreement, they agree not to prosecute him or lay any additional charges on him for any information they currently have or may acquire through him or through other means, meaning he can now feel free to tell the FBI in their FISA investigation any information that he has, and he's now obligated to do that, and he doesn't have to worry about incriminating himself because he is not going to be charged, even if he admits that he's part of additional crimes. He's been freed of being prosecuted or charged with any crimes at all in the future as it relates to this matter, even if he himself is providing the evidence that he himself was involved in a crime and a conspiracy with other people. However, it does not absolve other individuals from being charged with crimes based on information they may get from Kleinsmith when he is interviewed by the FBI regarding FISA matters. And remember, the FISA matters, FISA is not just this email that he doctored. This investigation into the FISA, and because remember, Judge Collier not only said that the FBI had to produce all the information that they acquired or collected from the Carter Page FISAs, but because Kleinsmith personally doctored that email, the FISA court, Judge Collier, also said that every single FISA that Kleinsmith himself was involved in, other FISAs that he may have been involved in, they must be reviewed by the FISA court, and the FBI must provide any information about any other FISA matters that Kleinsmith would have been involved in. And FISA is just not electronic surveillance. It would involve, remember, Title I FISA, a lot of people think, oh, well, that lets them listen into your calls. Not just listening to your calls. A Title I FISA warrant is the full ticket. That's listening to calls. That's complete surveillance, electronic surveillance. It also covers the FBI, breaking into your home and taking out evidence or looking for evidence. It involves confidential informants being run at you. It involves anything under the Title I FISA, which is any type of surveillance. Following you, talking to your friends, surveilling you, videotaping you, audio taping you, going back and getting your phone calls, your emails, your texts, using someone like Stefan Halper, dropping $10,000 on you using a foreign agent. All of those things would be fair game under a Title I surveillance warrant, which is FISA. So all of these matters will come into play for Kleinsmith, because that's primarily what he worked on. He was a lawyer who worked on Title I surveillance warrants, FISAs, which include all kinds of surveillance. And any information that he has about any of that is going to be something he could be questioned about. The defendant agrees to be personally debriefed by the FBI regarding the FBI's review of FISA matters. Well, that's a wide range of things. FISA matters would be the electronic surveillance, the human informants, physically breaking into the home, which they did of Carter Page. They physically entered his home on at least 2 occasions. Whether or not they removed evidence, I don't know. Sometimes they plant evidence. They probably did that as well. So all of that comes into play. Not only that, but he must provide any information that he possesses, direct or indirect. In other words, what did you know about what other people were doing? McCabe, Strzok, Luz Lisa Page, Yates, Moyer, Tash Gauhar, the whole crew, McCabe, Comey, Brennan, any of these people. Any information he possesses, he's obligated now because he has signed this plea agreement. Now, if he violates the terms of his plea agreement, then Durham could say, okay, well, you violated the terms of your plea agreement. We're going to hit you with the whole sack of charges now. He violates his plea agreement. So there you go. The plea agreement that he signed does involve Kleinsmith providing information. While that information cannot be used to lay additional charges on him, the information he provides can be used to charge others. There you go. Now, if you look at the line, the chain of command, he was directly under Sally Moyer. Well, he can't testify against her because now it's his wife. Very, very tricky. Very tricky. They've been thinking this thing through, haven't they? Don't want to testify against his wife, and she can't testify against him. So that may give them some cover, but I don't think that gives them complete immunity from and the questions, implicating his current wife. She was not his wife at the time. She was his girlfriend, or his whatever you call it at the time. If you follow the chain of command, it goes straight up to McCabe and to Comey. Now, as we've talked about many times, not so much recently, but many times back around last summer, even before that, we know that Andy McCabe is not going to take the rap alone. He's already said, if I go down, I'm taking everybody with me. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to get McCabe, and he'll do exactly what he said. He'll take everyone down with him. McCabe, Peter's been stroking us, Luce Lisa Page are all in the line of fire here, and I don't think that Sally Moyers is out of the woods. Just because he may not be forced to testify against her doesn't mean they won't be able to collect the evidence some other way. So there you go. I think that that's pretty conclusive evidence that Kleinsmith has a plea deal, and it involves him cooperating. I think it's pretty obvious. We'll continue to follow this and see where that leads. Where it should lead is to some more indictments, charges. Not everybody's going to get a plea deal. I mean, the only reason that Durham would offer you a plea deal is if you can give somebody up. Some of these characters are not going to give anybody up because they're going to proclaim their innocence regardless of the evidence against them. And then, of course, we had this story yesterday that broke. I'm not sure exactly what the details of it are. We're still waiting to find out what this means. But obviously, many of you have heard that Steve Bannon was arrested along with 3 other people, including Timothy Shea. Now, is this the same Timothy Shea that is Attorney General Barr's head of the DEA? Because I'm pretty sure Barr just appointed a guy named Timothy Shea to be his head of the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration, just a couple of months ago. Timothy Shea. I wonder if it's the same Timothy Shea. Guess we're going to find out. Also, it included the arrest of Brian Kolfage and Andrew Badalato. So these guys were all arrested yesterday. It has something to do with this this crowdfunding project they did with a private group to build the wall. Supposedly they defrauded people who contributed to this $25 million or so to this build the wall project, and apparently Bannon and a couple other people, I guess these people named with him, were supposed to use the money or pledge to use all the money for building the wall, but apparently they took some of the money for other things. It's probably, my guess, because it's coming out of the Southern District of New York with Cyrus Vance Jr., and we know that what he's all about, it's a political witch hunt. And how do we know it's a political witch hunt? Well, it's Steve Bannon. And what makes it even more obvious is the timing. It's the timing. What is one of Trump's greatest accomplishments that he is going to be touting next week at the convention? Building the wall, which drives Democrats nuts. Drives them nuts that Trump is getting his wall built. So you go after Biden, or you go after Bannon and his buddies, and you charge them, and even if the charges don't stick and they beat the rap, we won't know that till after the election. This matter won't shake itself out till after the election. Bannon, and I assume the other 2 or 3 guys, have all pleaded not guilty and posted their bond. They had a pretty high bond, too. Bannon's was $5 million. So the timing is if you have this case and it's about Steve Bannon and his being involved with some shady operation with some private guys crowdfunded to build the wall using a private company, maybe they think that that will deter Trump from talking a lot about his building the wall next week. But here's what the media doesn't understand. Here's what this idiot Cy Vance Jr. doesn't understand. And by the way, I remember Cy Vance Sr., his daddy. He was in the Jimmy Carter administration. And he was a hack, so you can assume his son's a hack as well. Crooked people. This was a political job. These indictments were filed long ago. They've been sitting on them, waiting for the right time. And when did they do it? Prior to the eve of the last night of the Democratic convention and on the eve of the beginning of the Republican convention, where they know that Trump's going to tout one of his greatest accomplishments as being building the wall. So they think that indicting Bannon and his friends on this deal that they had with a private group with private funding to build portions of the wall, that will somehow deter Trump from, talking about the wall. But they don't understand Trump. He's not going to be deterred whatsoever. He's going to go out and talk about his wall and the fact that he's got, 250 miles of wall built, and he's going to build a lot more of it, and he's happy about it. He's proud of it. He's doing a great job. He's going to talk about all that. He doesn't care that Steve Bannon got caught up in this thing. He commented on that and said, well, I never thought it was that grave an idea. I thought something the government should be doing, not private funding. And I haven't talked to Bannon in a long time. I don't know what he's up to and if this is legit or what it is, but, it is what it is. So Trump really didn't know anything about it. He was as surprised as anyone else. And he has nothing to do with this private funding of this wall thing. And, I don't know. I don't know if there's, crimes committed here or not. I don't know if this, what'll happen here. It's probably a trumped-up political game that Mr. Vance knows will not shake itself out till after the election, so they can use it against Trump to try to associate him with Bannon and try to scare Trump away from talking about one of his greatest accomplishments, which is building the wall, because they can then tie it to Bannon and his charges against him for being involved in this private fund to build the wall. It's a political trick, and they know that even if it's a stunt and it turns out to be bogus and that they don't really have any evidence or Bannon beats the rap for whatever reason, it's not legit, whatever, they don't care, because by the time it sorts itself out, the election will be over. So I would say that by the timing of this, the fact that they've been sitting on this indictment and just unsealed it at this particular time, based on timing, it looks very political. And of course, it won't sort itself out till after the election. So they can use it to bludgeon Trump with. And you can bet that they're going to slap a gag order on Bannon. They'll slap a gag order on him. He won't be able to go out and defend himself. While the media will be able to go out there for months and months up until the election, and every single day you'll see MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post will be talking about this Bannon issue with this private funding of the wall, and they'll be tying it to Trump every single day, hoping to tarnish his accomplishment with building the wall, hoping that he'll want to shy away from talking about it because he doesn't want to, reignite, the propaganda that he knows is going to be used against him if he brings it up. It's a political ploy. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if when this case is finally done, that we find out that it was a snow job. A big political hit. It was never had any real basis in fact. It was just a political hit for the purpose of election year politics. It's dirty politics. It's what it looks like to me. And as you all know, like I always say, if it looks like a duck, waddles like a duck, barks like a duck, most likely a duck. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more Towergate. See you guys. Bye.